Hello, hi, my name is Jared, aka Prosperity42, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Walking and Talking, wherein myself and some other Blizzard nerd are going to do a little bit of walking and a whole lot of talking. I'm joined today by a longtime friend of mine and a co-host on our podcast, Merely a Setback. It's Shoeboots!
Hey, how you doing, Jared?
I'm doing good, how are you?
Good, I was stealthing.
You were. And speaking of stealthing, how about that the questing experience? Well, you haven't done it on Horde. I'm assuming you've only done it on Alliance, right?
That's right. I am frantically leveling a Horde Demon Hunter so I can get it done in time to get the mount.
Ha.
But I haven't done it yet.
Well, it's good. I won't spoil anything for you, but it is fantastic. Very, very good. But this week we're not here to talk about the War of Thorns. We're here to talk about BFA Prepatch launch events in general, and with the BFA Prepatch launch event underway. I couldn't think of a better time to have this little chat. So let's get into it. First little question I have for us is has this pre-patch event exceeded your expectations or fallen short of what you have come to expect from Blizzard at this point in time, from or at least in regard to pre-patch events?
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. On the one hand, I guess, because as we're recording this, the final chapter of this hasn't come out yet. I've played it on the beta. I think you have as well, the Battle for Lordaeron. So if I include that, then I would say that yes, this has exceeded my expectations, because at least what I saw in the beta was pretty fantastic. But I do have to, if I take that away and I just judge it based on the 2 weeks that we've had so far, I will say it's a little underwhelming, unfortunately. Which is a bit of a bummer. The story's cool, but just the execution, I think, has been a little underwhelming so far.
Well, I gotta say, what we've seen so far, it's been a little bit underwhelming. Like the first week of it for me was very vastly underwhelming, to put it lightly. But this week, with the events that we've seen and the actual burning of Teldrassil, this pre-patch event has done something to me that pre-patch events in the past just haven't done to me in recent years, and that's actually make me feel something about what's going on. And well, that's not where I wanted to go. But yeah, the big thing about, the storyline going into this expansion and everything that we've seen or heard from the developers and story writers and everything is that, what we're looking at for the story is there's a lot of moral ambiguity going on, or as Ian Hazacostas would say, morally gray. Like everything's gray forever. And so an interesting point that was brought up, and something that I think a lot of people need to hear, and this was a point that was brought up by Matthew Rossi on Twitter, is that in order for gray to exist, there's got to be black. Like it's a mixture of black and white, and that's kind of the whole point. And a lot of people are missing that, and they're saying, well, my Sylvanas can't be evil, but she can definitely do evil things, and that's kind of the point. And that's I'll hop off my soapbox for that. But yeah, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, can we talk about the Sylvanas Warbringer short here?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, well, I think, it was really interesting, and I just saw it for the first time a couple hours ago. It just came out today. I I thought it was really interesting that she didn't initially intend to do it, and she was only driven to do it after being challenged that she couldn't destroy Hope. So I think that speaks a lot to what you're talking about, that, you know, she didn't, it wasn't her strategy to do something evil, but in a moment she was driven to do something morally black, I guess you could say, you know, like it's, and that's a very, to me, that's good writing, you know, like we all have our weak moments, and she had one right there.
Oh, absolutely.
And, I'm really interested to see where that goes with her. I know it makes a lot of Horde players in particular really upset, and it's difficult for me to really have a, you know, participate in the discussion, because I'm such a overtly biased Alliance player that nobody probably wants to hear what I have to say on that.
Well, sure. I mean, that's me and you both. We're both very, very intrinsically Alliance biased, and I mean, I have my pieces that I've said about it, and I talked a lot about it on stream today. But I mean, at the end of the day, I only just had a max level Horde character, you know, as of 3 months ago. So I don't really have the depth of experience with, you know, all the storylines and the characters that are present in the Horde that a lot of these people that do have a very deep issue with what Sylvanas has done, what their war chief has done. So I get it.
Yeah, but, and I think it's very healthy to have a moral issue with what your war chief is doing. I just think that it doesn't mean that the story's bad, you know? Like it.
Yeah.
I think the conflict is interesting. Yeah, like I can sit back and say it was foolish of Anduin to send Kalia into the field in the Arathi Highlands in the Before the Storm book.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't necessarily make it bad writing. It just kind of shows the naivete of Anduin's character, you know?
Yeah, which is, you know, by all intents and purposes, that is good storytelling. But to move past that, because I could talk about today's events until I'm blue in the face, but I want to get a little bit of perspective in this and ask what was your favorite pre-expansion event to date that you have played through?
Well, two stick out. I'll go with, I have to say, the Legion pre-expansion was to me my favorite. It was the whole invasion of the Legion and the loss of our leaders. I mean, I won't speak to Vol'jin in particular, but the loss of Varian was a really surprisingly emotional thing for me, and it was. I still, every time I level a character, I know you can skip it. I never skip it. Like I play through it every time still.
Oh yeah.
I just thought, and the way that they delivered it, that they put out the cinematic, you know, and then the pre-patch event, like, kind of picks up where that left off. They also did something that I thought was, you know, I don't know if it was intentional, but if I look at the way people are upset about the current one, you know, the big moment is about to come. But in the Legion one, they gave the big moment first, right?
Oh yeah.
And in the later weeks, they had the invasions and stuff, which were fun, and everyone was still super stoked from the whole major, you know, burning shore, Broken Shore, sorry,
right,
Broken Shore invasion, and yeah, I think that worked out better. Like right now, everyone's all kind of complainy, but I think everyone's gonna be really happy a week from now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah, and like you have said, like we're not out of the woods yet. Like we still have another big event going on, and we have not even begun to see what our characters are capable of and what our leaders are capable of. For that fact, for anyone that's played the beta, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, you'll find out. You will find out. But I gotta say, like, originally I was gonna say the Wrath pre-expansion was my favorite, but I spent most of the Wrath pre-expansion event dead. because
that
I
was
was not a cap level character.
Yeah, that was one that definitely came to mind for me too. Sorry, go ahead.
But it, like, for anyone that didn't experience it or doesn't know what exactly happened, there was just a onslaught of undead dudes, and there was a lot of disease being spread around, and basically I think there was like one particular debuff that it might have been from like a boss or something, from some raid somewhere, but it bugged out and ended up stacking, and you could teleport back to Stormwind, or your faction's capital city, and just spread it to everyone and kill literally everything in sight. And so yeah, that was a period of time that really just ruffled a lot of feathers. But it was really cool too, because it was very, in theme with what was about to happen with the expansion. Likewise, the Cataclysm pre-event, which a lot of people give Blizzard crap for the Cataclysm pre-event or pre-expansion event, because it was kind of bland, but at the same time they themed it right. Like, they did a good job with the theming of what you were doing. It was just a little underwhelming. But they were both pretty much hand in hand for me. But
yeah, the Wrath one I really liked, just the idea of like, this kind of zombie plague spreading, and just this whole idea of like, here's something crazy, totally unsustainable, and totally temporary, right? Like, we're just gonna be crazy for a couple weeks and that's it.
Oh yeah, it was so good. But speaking of ruffling feathers and just outrage in general, we've seen an immense amount of outrage from the WoW community, specifically around this pre-expansion event for BFA, and it begs the question: is the outrage that we're seeing from the community being thrown at Blizzard, and the vitriol that is being spewed at Blizzard employees, is it in any capacity justified, or is it completely and totally uncalled for and misplaced?
Yeah, I mean, as it always is with the internet, it is never justified, and it is always misplaced. People are just nuts. I mean, I get it. I will say this, like, it does seem, even this week, it was really cool plot wise this week, but it did seem sort of kind of thrown together. Like, I remember in the beta when they tested it, there was a cutscene. They were going to show an in-game version of Sylvanas looking at the burning of the world tree. We saw sort of a work in progress of that. And the final version, that's just gone. They've just inserted the Warbringers short, which I don't know if that decision was ultimately that they just thought it was artistically better, but I worry that it might be that they just ran out of time to get the cutscene right.
Maybe so.
So I think criticism like that is fair, but this just pure anger, the first week of like, that it wasn't much of a, story-wise, everyone was really upset. I guess it's too soon to see how angry people will be after today or not, but
right.
It's just totally uncalled for, and like the harassment of the people that make this game, that whether you are happy or not with any particular part of this game, you just have to know that they care about it. I've never really bought into that argument that all Blizzard cares about is money, and that they don't care about the game. They just want subs. That's never been a compelling argument to me. So
yeah. I mean, if they didn't care about it at the end of the day, they wouldn't be wasting their time on it. Like, yeah, sure, you could make the argument there's a lot of money in it, and while that is not far from the truth, like, still you have to realize, like, these people pour their passion into this day in and day out. Like these are these are real human beings, not NPCs that you can walk up and put a sword in them, or smash their head in with a hammer. These are real, actual, breathing human beings that have hopes and aspirations just the same as everyone else, and it just it needs to stop.
Yeah. And I mean, even taking a step away from that and just saying like, okay, forget about that for a sec. When we think about like what a pre-patch event is, it is ultimately a disproportionately high investment of resources for a small payoff. It always is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something that is limited to a very specific amount of time, has generally no bearing on your character progression, and has expectations through the roof. You know, like it's a double-edged sword for Blizzard, because the more time they put into it, the less they're getting out of it. But the less time they put out of it, the more upset people get, I guess you could say.
Right.
And I just think, I mean, they have done a good job. I think, starting with Warlords of Draenor, they've managed to make a pre-patch event that can just become part of the leveling experience later. You know, in Warlords of Draenor, you can go through the Dark Portal and do that whole, that whole section. And in Legion, you can go and do the Broken Shore. And, presumably down the road, you'll always be able to go to do the Battle of Lordaeron. So
right.
They've managed to get some value out of it, but ultimately they're like designing, in all three of the things I mentioned, they designed entirely new zones, or like completely redesigned zones, and made like highly scripted events that are, you don't see that scripting almost anywhere else in the game. Like and with cutscenes, multiple cutscenes.
Oh yeah.
It's just so much work for them for what is ultimately going to be 1 week of the game ever, as far as current content goes.
Yep. Which is, why. Well, we know why they continue to do it with every expansion, because it's fun, it's exciting, it's something. All of these are coming at the tail end of content that has been out for months at a time. Probably the biggest chunk of time was Warlords to Legion, and having something to break the monotony of we're just gonna log in and do our garrison stuff and all that, and having something else to do, to look forward to for a couple of weeks, to get your interest. And I'll go a step further from what you said earlier and say that let's oh hey, there's Alliance banners over there. Wow. Weird. We can go ahead and stop here in the little crosswalk section. Right here should be fine. But yeah, we have these things in the game because it's a hook. It's a hook to get you emotionally invested in the story that's about to unfold in the up and coming expansion. I've got to say, like, I have to say beyond a shadow of doubt, they have achieved that. At least for me. I can't speak for everyone else. Everyone's got their own opinion on the matter. But for me, it's done exactly what they set out to do with any of these pre-expansion events. They've hooked me. They've got me. I mean, I was already going to play through the new content anyway, but now I have personal motivation. I have a character that is invested in why, like, not the how or the what we're gonna do in the new expansion, but the why we're gonna do it. So that's all that I have to say about it. Do you have any final thoughts on the pre-expansion event?
Yeah, I think. I mean, the battle for Lordaeron. I can't wait to see the cutscenes. It looks really good, and I've played through it a number of times on the beta, and it's really fun. Like I think, for all the drama going right now, I think it'll soon be forgotten, and I think everyone will be really satisfied who hasn't tried it yet. Um, but I think my final thoughts on just pre-patches in general are. They're not that big a deal, right? Like we can rank our favorites and say which ones were hits and which ones were misses, but they're just not worth getting that upset about, you know? Because at the end of the day, I mean, you know, Blizzard does their best crack, and you know they try new things every time, and when you experiment, you're bound to have some successes and some failures. So if one's not satisfying, I've always kind of been the type of guy that says, "Oh, well, that could have went better. Oh well." And moved on. I've never like wanted to harass people on Twitter because so just you know, just chill everyone and
take a step back.
Yeah, and for you in particular that are so mad about the story of Sylvanas, all of you out there, just be aware of the irony of the way that you're acting upon your anger and how it makes you just like the character that you're so upset about right now.
Well put, sir. Well, that's gonna be it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, but our feet and our jaws are very tired. So we'll see you next week when we walk and talk a little bit more.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the end of the video. If you liked this one and want to see more like it, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and also if you want to stay up to date on when everything goes live, best place to do that is on Twitter, so follow me there at prosperity_42, and give Shoeboots a follow too, because he's great. At the Shoeboots is where you can find him. So thank you all so much again for watching, and I will see you all next week.